Boom. We are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this evening, not today. Excited to have Todd Butterfield of Wyckoff SMI. Todd, welcome to the show this evening.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited.
Yeah, I just for the audience, I ran across one of Todd's videos just a few days ago, and we had a very similar outlook. And I thought it would be a great way to have a conversation. You know, the Wyckoff method has done so well for me over the last few years. And Todd, you've got a great eye for these things. So, do you want to introduce yourself and give the Bear family a little bit of your background?
I mean, I was trading low price stock options and stocks with my father when I was probably 16 to 18. Was going to college, saw an ad for Wyckoff SMI, I believe, in the back of Barron's. Just a small, must have been like an inch by 2 inch little ad. I signed up for their at-home course, graduated in 1982. And in 1982, I talked my grandfather into giving me $10,000. I got into a U.S. investment championship because that was what real money traders were doing to prove they knew what they were doing. I got in that. It was a futures. I was trading stock index futures. I made like 32%, I think, in a quarter. Got ranked 12th in the nation. My mom wanted to know if I was going to ever get a job, and I said no. Someday somebody's going to call me to manage their money. So I put on trades. I'd go fishing. Then lo and behold, the phone rang, and I had a gentleman that owned Real Shacken in Chicago at the Chicago Board Options Exchange called me and said, "Hey, how much money can you manage? What do you want paid, and when can you start?" And I didn't want to move. I'm from a small town. I'm like, I don't really want to move to Chicago, but my brother was there. So that was like a Friday. I packed up. I was there Monday morning. And then went to work, was trading a lot of OEX options at the time. I'm only 5'8", probably 140 pounds then. So I stood at the top of right outside the pit, did some trading there, but mostly I've always been an upstairs trader. So I traded upstairs a few years, went to Smith Barney for a couple of years, quit there, started my own investment firm. I've had an IRA since 1996. And I got a lot more competitions. If you go to wyckoffsmi.com, I've got my picture there in background. I got first, 12th, 14th, third, a lot of different real money competitions. Anything I was ever in is what's posted because I wasn't allowed to cherry pick it from my regulators. So any competition I got in is on the website. Had a CTA, a lot of different things. 2017, I had a gentleman build me a website, and he said, "You do anything in Bitcoin, Ethereum?" I said, "No." He's like, "Man, I think Ripple's the one to be doing it." I'm like, "What is Ripple?" It was at half a penny. And he went live one night, and people wanted to talk about Ripple. He's like, "You got to get live on YouTube with me." I said, "Dude, I'm not doing no YouTube." And I got on there. I think Litecoin was $12, Ethereum was 14, and I gave some Wyckoff trades. And back in the day, a week later, Litecoin doubles, Ethereum doubles, and we just built up a big following on YouTube at that point. Him and I had a little bit of falling out a couple of years after that. I continued it with a partner named Nick. We've got a Discord. I manage stock assets, crypto assets. In 2017, I took over Wyckoff SMI because the gentleman running it was wanting to retire, Jim O'Brien. He took it over from kind of my mentor, Craig Schroeder. And I kind of wanted, there was always a schooling institute. I kind of wanted to start trying to give trades and proving that it worked instead of just saying, "Hey, I sell courses." I was trying to be like, let's sell courses, but let's give some trading advice. Let's really prove that it works, because I was out here doing it with my clients. So 2017, I took over. Jim was getting a little bit older and couldn't stay up with my pace because my pace was kind of nonstop. So he did retire late 2017, early 2018. And I've just continued on my own. I kind of redid our software, made it updating every 5 minutes, start jumping on YouTube, Twitter, and now recently TikTok, etc. So trying to spread the word, because I appreciate what Craig Schroeder did for me as my teacher, and just out here trying to make it happen.
Yeah, in our private group, Wyckoff there's a few ones like what would Wyckoff do? There's anyways, well, I'm a huge fan of the trading ranges. When I first dove in and started learning about mostly interested in and still today mostly interested in venture capital, but it became very clear to me, especially during the pandemic, that there was a method to the madness in terms of the larger market operators. You actually said something earlier too, which is I put on trade and go fishing, which I would believe is a reference to a reminiscence of a stock operator, some of Jesse Livermore's famous quotes. So I'm a huge fan of this type of technical trading. You had shared your Bitcoin chart earlier, and this is the thing that made me reach out to you is that we had drawn it basically the same. Can you take me over the Bitcoin chart that you're looking at, and maybe we can have like a conversation around Bitcoin right now?
I sure can. Let me share that. You got the Bitcoin chart now in front of you?
Yeah, there we go. Hey, see, it looks awesome.
That's the way I've been trading it. You know, different things can be changed around. I mean, you can see here that I will add with today's action is, you know, we just really also went up to this higher resistance. So we'll maybe talk about that too, why I didn't take profits today on my trade. I'm going to kind of explain that because we got pretty nasty there a couple hours ago on the downside. But definitely after FTX, we had, had what I was calling a shakeout because we put in the lows here, preliminary support, selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test. That kind of stops the movement for the time being. And you go into redistribution or accumulation. And then I have some points here. We'll talk about the red dots, the green dots, because those are Wyckoff proprietary indicators that any success I've had is based off those indicators, which is based on price, volume, and time. And then FTX brought in, the major selling, the shakeout. And I was saying that back then, it was kind of a scary time to try to stay bullish. Everybody was talking 10,000, 12,000, et cetera. And then really what got me going here recently was like December 18th. I could show the Ethereum chart maybe later. I had oversold technometers. I had some buy divergences between volume and price. That kind of got me excited that, hey, we're finally going to dig out of here and get back in the trading range where we need to be. And then stayed long for the big green bars here, back up to resistance. Stayed long to the red sell at 22,650. Looking for some type of backup here. And then, we did an easy spring in Ethereum and quite a few altcoins. But we had the spring or the backup that I labeled. Had that pullback on low volume, which is, we got big green volume on the uptick. No volume on the pullback to speak of here on this chart. And then came alive here in the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it looks beautiful to me. I think it feels like a textbook move. There's a few parts that you brought up about volume and supply signature, and I wanted to start off by asking a question. Your primary support on the far left hand of the screen, the one major thing that I had drawn differently is I'd actually put the primary support back up at around that 22.9 point because of the amount of volume and supply that came in. Is there, do you think I did something wrong by doing that? Because this is the only thing that we really looked at differently was the preliminary support. I'd drawn like up higher and more over to the left.
Right.
And you're saying you're using your technometer, the technometer down at the bottom here for that. Yeah, this big chunk of supply, that's where I drew the primary support as.
Right. Those are hard things. The OP are showing a lot of sell volume coming in. So really kind of climaxed, I'm going to say right there, because that's where the OP started flattening out.
Yeah. Okay.
Where
nice.
the force index, came in hard. So I think that's the selling climax. And I think, if you're looking at a longer, more of a weekly chart or something, maybe you could call that some preliminary support. The 25.3 could be important later on a pullback. But, I think for me, I've got it labeled correctly. I put resistance at the first automatic rally. You could go back and claim it up here today, the 25.2 level. And again, we tested that today, as you know, and got reversed, but that'd be a classic place for bears still to try to make a stand and try to turn this thing lower. Again, we got nasty there a few hours ago, but we're trying to recover. And the reason today, right at the high, is 25.2 because we have a paid Discord. I mean, I said, hey, first time the technometers are overbought, but I'm going to give us some time. And the reason I did that is we didn't get oversold when I bought the 21,550. You can see down here, oversold is more around the 38 level. We only did 42.43. So there wasn't even really major selling that could come in. So that's why I thought this was a backup and maybe solid, because we couldn't even get enough selling come in to give me an oversold technometer. So I really don't want to sell the first overbought technometer here. If we're in a trading range, I should have sold today at the highs, because we could mouse around here, but I just felt like, that isn't as important. And, the first, usually, if we're in a bull move, you don't want to sell a high RSI, you don't want to sell an overbought reading because it's going to get more overbought. The key is an oscillator, a volume will, in a trading range, will pick highs and lows consistently. But when we break out of this range, it's going to tell you to get out way too early. So at some point, you got to try to back up. Hey, if we've done a backup, we could be in a markup phase. So you want to not sell the first overbought technometer. You want to give us some room to run. So here, I'd rather, instead of selling like I did at 22,650, here I kind of want to try to give us some room and see if we can put ourselves together here and continue higher. And I also base that a little bit on stocks, because recently, for quite a while, Bitcoin's been a high beta NASDAQ stock for real. I mean, a risk on, risk off asset. And the rally the last 3 days was kind of out of the blue. So I don't know if it has to do with BUSD. I don't know what, maybe some news out of Hong Kong. I don't know. We had some strength here that showed up out of the blue. So I kind of want to give it a little bit of a few days here to see if we, what's going on here.
Yeah, the dollar was looking fairly strong and maybe in some type of reaccumulation today, on a shorter time frame. I guess while we're here on the Bitcoin chart, I had another question. So I like that I had something different with the primary support. I was basing off supply, but this jump in the backup, is there any way that this turns into a distributional phase?
I mean, I think we'd have to come back to 20,000, 350 or something to turn the chart really ugly. I mean, with this strong volume on the up move and then some back off here, I mean, I'm so comfortable with the way I've got it labeled.
Yeah.
I mean, if it starts giving up 22.8, I think I'd start getting a little bit concerned here short term.
Right.
Definitely today's action stopping at previous resistance that I shown. I mean, I've got to add that obviously now. And we just respected that so far.
Yeah, touched
and it's
it
going to matter what
perfectly.
Stocks. I mean, stocks closed horrible. They're down more tonight. So if stocks have got some troubles, and I do a lot of Elliott wave theory, I don't normally, Wyckoff said never mix, different ways to study the market. I throw Elliott wave on crypto because I think sentiment, is definitely violent there. You won't see me throwing any Elliott wave on stock charts. Maybe a little bit on, a Dow Jones or SPY chart, but I don't really throw it on individuals. But I did throw it on crypto. I don't use Elliott wave to really put on positions. I use it once I've gotten a position on because of Wyckoff. How does that fit into an Elliott wave pattern that might be starting?
And one of the analogs we had compared it to was the 2019 accumulation, which appeared to be, I guess, a larger selling climax when Bitcoin went from $3,000 to 19,000. I think you're correct, largely speaking. There are a few of the other people I chatted with. They were expecting this touch of that top resistance line to maybe form a right arm of the shoulder. And I was like, that would look really bad to me. That would appear more like a breakdown of the whole trading range.
Right.
So what's your take on the dollar as is on a longer term chart as well? Do you have the dollar?
I do the dollar, and I think we've had 5 waves down on the dollar. I think we probably completed an A up there a couple of weeks ago. We're working on a B.
Yeah.
I'm showing that on my broadcast. I mean, I think dollar could pull back here for a week, keep Bitcoin going higher. dollar could rally for a month or two, give us a pullback in Bitcoin back to this backup level, maybe again. And then I think the dollar falls apart, and Bitcoin can head up to the upside aggressively.
Is there anything else you're looking at on the charts that have looks quite nice in terms of these accumulation channels? We've looked at a few. Some of them have played out really well. Again, most of what we focus on is the gaming sector. So things like Gala, Magic, Ape Token. What excites you in the market right now on the crypto side of things? It has this what appears to be a textbook accumulation, declining supply throughout that jump and backup phase. Is there anything else you're?
Many of them have that, and then many of you had a spring there 4 or 5 days ago and have rallied off of it. So I do a lot of the larger caps. I mean, Litecoin's acted extremely well. It's in a markup phase. I mean, I could show that as well.
Yeah, let's see your thoughts on Litecoin.
I mean, Litecoin acts, you know, it looks better than. I mean, there's same type of thing. It just had a nice jump here early in the backup. Our technometer right here, you can see, went to oversold perfectly on the backup. So again, let me explain. The OP and the OP is 5-minute volume, intraday posted daily, basically. So you've had new low here while Litecoin's making higher highs. That's bullish. If you do a jump and a backup and then you get an oversold technometer on the backup, I mean, that was kind of a key area showing sell volume coming in, price backing up to previous resistance. That's classic Wyckoff. And now you've got a markup phase coming. I've been talking up here that was going to need some type of ABC pullback. And we got that when I gave the buys here 3 or 4 or 5 days ago. But now here we are, back to new highs on Litecoin, and that one looks like it's still just in a markup phase, and you want to buy constructive pullbacks.
This was always one of the things I noticed too, is when you find good leaders of the pack, basically to focus more on those. One of the ones we had been following is Magic Token. If I don't know, yeah, you can find Magic on there, MAGIC. Take a look at this one for fun, because it's already finished its accumulation phase and broken out. Oh, hey, Ethereum looks good here too. Nice. Yeah, take us through Ethereum.
I'm looking at your Magic on my trading view here.
Yeah, it went through its accumulation, did its jump back up, and is into new, current discovery.
Right. I mean, that's no one of those that's completing 5 waves up here shortly. Any type of pullback on that, I'm sure that one's going to be a bull market leader as well.
So what's your thoughts on discovering these bull market leaders? Because I made an assertion, I jumped into some of these thinking they were going to be leaders, and they were a bit lackluster. Magic was fantastic, but what's your thoughts on finding leaders? Because Ethereum here looks better than Bitcoin if we're taking it from that perspective.
Right. This is just a selling climax that I had marked as a shakeout on Bitcoin. But this is a chart that kind of got me on the right avenue here recently. And your Magic, I like the Magic because the volume came in big on that on the up move. I mean, the move from 50 to $1.60. I mean, big green bar volume there. So that just showed major accumulation. So it's Ethereum, the same type of thing. I mean, here on the OP, new lows in the volume, price trending up, while volume is trending down. And then we got the oversold reading here. And I didn't jump on it there because I was worried, like everybody else, about, if we're headed
everything
straight down. So I was scared to death.
Yeah, everything,
day,
yeah.
If we go over 3 days, you'll see that the OP continued lower even on these days. Still more selling came into my second blue arrow. So you still had more selling. That's why I put 2 arrows here. Bitcoin making still a higher high. So I bought 1183, I think it was. And then looking forward to go to resistance. Well, it plowed through resistance. We sold 1545, I think it was 1547. I had a position on the shakeout that I bought that I sold up here at 1655, I believe. And then we got, a lot of Wyckofians will buy springs and uptrends. and sell up thrusts and downtrends. I've done some videos on that. So I was looking for this area probably to be taken out because that brings in the shorts. And I actually bought this day when we just briefly broke through there because, again, I had an oversold technometer. So I really bought 3 days early. But we did come down for a deeper spring, deeper oversold reading. And then, again, right back higher. So, and we broke through resistance. Yeah, we reversed today, but that chart probably still looks good for me. We did get the overbought technometer. I mean, we came in at 49.72, 50 is considered overbought. So didn't get a strong overbought. Like I said, we've had a good rally here. Volume is just fair. So I need to see the next few days. See what comes out.
So there's kind of two thoughts here. Out of the back of that jump and back up, it looks like a reaccumulation, a smaller version of an accumulation chart. If you have market leaders like a Magic that's moving into such strong discovery, do you feel that these are indicators in any way for the market as a whole? Like for me, one of my questions is like, does the operator leave that big of a footprint when they're making plays that we can kind of see the future on some of their smaller interests?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think another one of those was what APT is one of those that I throw on.
Oh yeah, Aptos as well. Correct.
That in the Discord, RNDR is another one that might be doing something. So yeah, I think they're showing their hands in some of those for sure. You mentioned 2019 because we had our Discord then, and I have the chart on my desktop somewhere here, and I did some videos. But the 2019 rally, my OP and technometer, we had like 12 buys all the way up. Never really got a sell because it seemed like sell volume just kept coming in on every pullback. So the technometer gave me a buy. We'd rally, get a few days, few weeks pullback. Technometer gave us a buy. I mean, I had buys all the way up to the 13, 14,000 level, and then finally got a sell and picked the high. Somebody said today, I forget, they said it was 15 minutes. We sold huddle bags and trading bags, and 15 minutes later, we had a $2,000 red bar. So, I mean, in the back of my mind, I think buy signals, and I mentioned this, a month ago, oversold technometer readings, you might want to get on these because we might be doing a 2019 where we just continue trending higher. And for me, the buy signals are going to come off the volume, not as much the price.
So maybe let's take a look at, do you have the S&P drawn up by any chance?
The S&P?
Yeah, it would be fun to talk about volume in the S&P right now.
Instead of switching screens, I'll just slide my screen over. There's the SPY last 6 months. And I will mention here, I mean, again, with Discord and everything, a lot of my trades are out there. So the SPY gave me an oversold technometer reading on the 10th. I gave a buy at 406. I think it was 65. My other indicators didn't get oversold on, well, we followed the Wyckoff wave, a Wyckoff wave new. The Wyckoff wave new also gave me a buy. So I've had a buy on stocks. That's why I was pretty happy with having a buy on crypto. And then stocks, selling the last 3 days, we kind of recover, but today we had selling and it got more violent at the close. So I'm not sure that's the fly in the ointment for me. The technometer here is 44, so it's not telling me to buy more. It's telling me better be careful with what I've already bought. I don't know if we've had an ABC down, we're gonna have an ABC up. I really think we'll reverse ourselves higher here on the S&P tomorrow, and we'll go back here and try to get new highs for this move. That'll take Bitcoin to 28,000. And then SPY has a month pullback, dollar has a month rally, and Bitcoin has a month-long pullback, which is probably going to be a bigger wave too on a LA wave chart. If you follow me on all that.
Yeah, part of my sentiment was we would run into that downward pressure coming from the previous two highs, somewhere around 35 to 45, and then form a smaller reaccumulation channel at the back end, similar to what happened in 2017, where we came down from 20,000 and hit our selling climax of $3,000, made the first automatic rally up to 13, came back and then had our spring in the middle of the pandemic and carried out right at the back end of that, I think is what we'll see, a smaller kind of tighter reaccumulate or some type of accumulation range build from this is, I think, the primary selling climax or the spring. Now, if it's the spring, I think you had counts upwards of 70 grand, and I agree. We could maybe continue into new highs, but one step at a time. It just looks good right now.
Yeah, I think we got to do one step at a time, because who knows for sure.
Nice.
Right, just get, good buy areas. Try to put the odds in my favor and throw a little bit LA wave and see, let the markets try to prove themselves.
Right. And reduce risk, because as you mentioned at the beginning, we thought everything was going to die in December still. Like, the macro story is so bad. It's no good news aside from there's limited stock for people to buy. So what are some of the other things you look for? Well, let's go back to that, looking for leaders in the market. Are there any other leaders that you've been looking at, and maybe share some of those and what they look like and where they are in their market at the moment?
I mean, most of these, again, I've got Nick in my Discord who does a lot of the smaller caps. I mean, BNB is one that I also gave a buy on. BNB, the real smaller caps, I leave that more to Nick. So to find the jewels, I mean, he made a lot of money on BNB back when it was, we were on that when it was $22, I think. Zen was another big one. ADA. We've traded a lot of, SOL. Still trading that here recently, Floki, etc. So we've thrown different ones of those around as well. Some of the smaller ones, like you're talking about on Magic, I mean, that's normally not really my wheelhouse, not really where I spend my time. Because again, I manage stock assets, crypto assets, so my time is I'm pretty crushed for time and brain cells.
Yeah, no, we focus on venture capital, so it's
right. See here again, this is BNB with that new low in the OP. Price higher, oversold technometer. That's why I came back in at 285. So I think that's an important level. If that level gives away, BNB's got some problems, definitely short term. So I've got to stop really close to my entry, because again, I want to give this some room here. We had a sell off tonight. I want to see if we can put ourselves back together and continue to work higher then.
And you have Matic mapped out as well?
Matic, yep.
It's been one of our long-term favorites.
That's definitely one, same thing. That's a leader.
Yeah, it's had a lot of strength throughout the pullbacks.
I mean, the chart here for me, as you can see, it's not got Wyckoff labels because it's a little bit tougher here.
Oh, actually, this one, it looked like a rising gradient bottom to me, one of the most bullish of the accumulation ranges. Do you think that top there in December, even though it's so high, is actually the spring?
Let me reload this so my indicators will load on the bottom. Again, this was kind of tough because I think this was a selling climax, or this could have been automatic rally secondary test, but just a lot of strength there. So it's been so much stronger that chart's hard to read, but I think, it's accumulation, obviously. Our last two buys here on the technometer was nicely. In my software, I got to reload it because I'm getting straight lines here, but I didn't get a good setup on this one because it's been so strong. It didn't give me an oversold reading, a week ago. But I told Discord members if Matic was their coin, you want to buy that when I give a buy on Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. Because if it's a good environment for those coins, it's going to be a good environment for these new leaders like you're talking about with Magic or any of the stuff.
Yeah. Oh, for fun, check out fetch.ai. That's one we've been following for since 2018 as well. It's been pretty ridiculous. You'll like this one. Very similar to what Magic just did as well.
I know what that looks like, but I don't have that one in my software.
Oh yeah. Okay. No worries.
So I got it on my other screen here.
So yeah, this was kind of that same question, is because things like Fetch and Matic are already moved outside of the trading range, finished their jump across the creek, the backup, and into like full SOS phase. Does that, how do you factor that into Bitcoin going up into confidence, or do you separate them completely? Because I'm pretty confident about the Bitcoin chart that you shared. I feel the same way about what I've drawn. My only I had to put my primary supports in a different place.
Right.
Do you use those other market leaders as confidence builders for the main trajectory of because for me, Bitcoin is the market leader of everything. If
Right.
Bitcoin tanks, it's all going to tank.
Right.
What's your thoughts on the relationship between those kind of outside of the box market leaders like a Magic or a Fetch, and then how that can or maybe doesn't affect Bitcoin overall?
I mean, I think if, if Bitcoin's doing well, that's what Wyckoff would say. That's, the market leader, that's the trend. So if Bitcoin's trending higher, then it tells you, I think it's safe to go in and try to find these new leaders, because the ones you're mentioning are the ones that are performing so well. They're definitely the more speculative, more the leaders, and could be where the real home runs are. So again, that's not really my wheelhouse. I look at those and try to pick a few. Nick's kind of on those, so I've left it more to him to find those. But yeah, the Fetch, I mean, those charts are crazy. But they'll
Fair.
have a little bit, they're so high, they're so speculative, they'll have a little bit of different movement. But yeah, those are the ones you want to be in, as long as Bitcoin continues to tell you it's safe to stay in the pool.
And what's the smallest time frame that you look at? I made a joke this morning. I wrote, I would love to stare at the 1 minute chart with you. It's like it was a late Valentine's joke, but what's your thoughts on time frames?
I mean, our volume is based on 5-minute data, so I can go to a 5-minute chart, which I do quite a bit. I do that definitely on the stocks. So, if I'm looking for an entry, I'll go to a 5-minute chart and show here. I'll delete all the extra. Then I'll go in and look for divergences on the 5-minute chart. Not really many in Matic, but you look for where volume has came down dramatically over the course of maybe a week. Price is holding, just like it showed on the daily chart. Same thing works on the 5-minute chart. So normally, if the daily's telling you want to be interested, you probably ought to go into the 5-minute and figure out, is there something telling me right now that this is when I want to jump? And Elliott Wave is on hourly charts, so I go to hourly sum. But really, I stay with the daily, and then I break down to the 5-minute here and look at price and volume together.
Oh yeah, and here's another fun question that I toss around every now and then. From some of our early entries in Matic to where it grew to, it was like 100 or 200x. How do you deal with these outsized gains in terms of the trading ranges? I mean, the accumulation range in Fetch was beautiful. Like around 2020, there's this really sexy spring right on the day of the pandemic. Pretty much everything was up and out of the box to the right for months afterwards. How do you deal with outsized movements in the market cycle while getting in and out of positions?
I mean, shoot, I'm not used to that either. I mean, I'm used to stock, so that's been a struggle for me. It's like I said when I started. I mean, I give a buy on Litecoin. Ethereum was, I think Ethereum was 14 on my first trade. Next it's 28, and then you're giving buys at 100, and then next thing it's 1600. So, I mean, that's why I kind of went more to Elliott Wave theory to figure out, what crazy numbers on the upside could we be looking at. So, I mean, that's a struggle always, because you wouldn't think you're going to be trading something that could 10x or something.
Right. Yeah. The 10x is, see, I had more of a traditional mindset as well. We had a 10x on Fetch. I was like, well, this is awesome. We're clearly going to take profits, only to watch it go like 200 times higher. Like, it's like, I didn't factor asymmetry into this trading path at all. And it's one of the reasons why we try to keep a lot of venture capital mindset in here, just because you're dealing often with such small market caps and hugely overvalued ideas, or valuable ideas. Here's another way to ask the question too. What do you think the difference in 24-hour, 7-day-a-week trading has made in comparison with the traditional on and off markets?
Made my hair thinner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
might be true.
What a horrible life to have, to trade something that never stops trading. I mean, I got a computer by my bed. people would be like, "Damn, you sleep with that thing on?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I mean, it's tough, and not good for most people, not good for myself for real,
Do you
but
feel, do you think that it's changed the structure or the dynamics of the ranges, or the like the positive ROI, or the like the fluctuations in volatility at all?
yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I know, because then certain hours China will come in or different things. I never really have studied that. Uh, Somebody said today that, well, we had Sunday sell-offs maybe because of FTX. I don't know if that was a correct comment or what. So, yeah, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I just, I had very little experience in the traditional markets before I worked my way into the crypto sector. So I've been with the 24 hours, 7 days a week for since the beginning of my trading and investing interest, more or less. There's only a little bit way back in 2006 when I bought some pot stocks in Canada. I was like, yeah, figure this out. But I thought it was an interesting question. So,
Because I will go like on BNB, my partner was all over that at 22 or 26 and rode that thing up, clear up, sold some, I think at 450 and 550. And I mean, those are crazy numbers. So it's hard to do that. We had hodl bags where we believed in the space. So we were going to let some gains get crazy. And then we try to have a trading bag where, we'll take profits and try to book profits and look for the next trade, even if it's higher. So Solana was another one that, who would have thought the rally that it had,
yeah.
traded some of that. I mean, I also kept some and, gave back big gains. So it's a crazy environment that we're a part of.
Yeah, having separate interests, I think, makes a lot of sense just because of that potential. Oh, Dogecoin was another one of these early entries we made where we walked away with like a 10x thinking we were fucking hot shit in the markets. Like, yeah, we traded that like a champion, only to watch it do like a 5,000x a few years later. It's just so hard to proportionally measure. One of the things we try to tell everyone is like, traditionally you talk, be prepared to lose, but here it's like, I want it to go to zero, prove to me that I was totally wrong. So just, we make investments often that we hope go to zero, because if they don't, like Dogecoin, there were such astronomically high numbers, it's almost impossible to try to trade over the short term. One of the other questions, Todd, I wanted to go into was just, what's your general thoughts about why the Wyckoff trading range and the heuristic of the comp man has been able to withstand so many years still?
I mean, I just, price, volume, time really trumpets everything. So, and it doesn't matter what market it is. I mean, I think that, will always stand the test of time.
Yeah, I felt one of the other things we shared was that we are all comp man. Basically, we're all partaking in this pattern recognition of human psychosis. Is there I've got some charts I could show and maybe ask you a question or two for fun.
For sure.
Let's see if I can do that. Does it lock? Wait, hold on. Do I show up as the main speaker, or do we have to pin me to do that?
Take it from
there.
there.
Okay, there we go. That should be able to do it. So here, I'll show you where I was at with, can you see my screen there?
Sure can.
Okay, awesome. It worked. I'm glad. The community always gets mad at me. I always forget to screen share. So see, as you can see, like I said, I put my primary support way up here, just because of the supply signature. So,
yeah.
Because I'm learning and practicing all the time, when you're reading the supply, when you see this big mark up here, how do you use this as an indicator for the rest of the trading range, or even the selling climax that came in here? How are you using this as a reference or a guide to the rest of the trading range? Because here, the reason I thought we got the spring was just because this abnormally high moment of supply, ridiculous amounts of fear. Everyone's like, oh my God, Bitcoin, the crypto market's dead for a decade. Like, it's over. We need regulation. So there's all the things that came to a spring, but how do you reference or factor in the importance of the amount of supply that's coming into the market?
I mean, I think what you have, Mark, there was just another selling climax followed by some more redistribution. I personally don't like you having that so far to the left and so much higher than the trading range that we had. Again, not saying that's wrong.
No,
I
it could be. I don't
think
know.
we had
I was just like, there's a ton of supply
Right.
here. We're going to call that
But I think-
primary support.
one thing that I would say is the preliminary support. A lot of times you want to catch that on the right side of this pattern because that could be a last point of support. So once we get a strong rally here and then a pullback, that dollar where they stop that decline is important when we try to leave this range to the upside.
Right. Yeah. So this was deceiving because we could have thought that this was an automatic rally potentially. If
Yeah, that's some more redistribution with still more something to come.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I'll agree with that. I'll change it.
And I will say one thing that a lot of people years ago, somebody took a Wyckoff schematic and they changed the sign of weakness, the SOW, and then stock charts went ham with that because Wyckoff, the Institute never was very big, with marketing. They were kind of best kept secret. They'll say that about Wyckoff. Those guys just kind of did their thing. And people have taken that chart and went ham with it. But, I would expect a lot of people we go to a new low, they call that a sign of weakness, and then we immediately go back to new highs. You don't have that marked here, but that is one thing that always I catch people on. They label everything correct, but not that, because you can't have a sign of weakness to like a new low below support and then go back to new highs above resistance. That would never be called a sign of weakness by Wyckoff. So you've got to kind of move that. It was just an ST like you've got marked there, etc.
Yeah, I saw this today. I didn't recognize it at the time, but this increase in supply and the fact that the price is just not going anywhere lower was such an awesome sign, for the secondary test at least. You could have, but here was the fear moment. Now I'm always looking for some cataclysmic thing to happen. I'm like, oh no, we're near something going wrong. Everything else is good. And then the test, another big chunk of supply came in. And then here's where I started to ask a few questions again, just because, you've got more time on deck here than I do. This decrease in the supply signature, I was super excited about throughout this trading range. And I've labeled as a micro SOS and an LPS, just because we didn't have the break above this previous top of the support. Yeah, so there's two questions here. If we come up and can't close above, what are we looking for this upthrust in distribution, potentially? I don't think that's the case. I think this is a very strong signal of a spring. I don't think we would get the distribution, but just because the SOS and this upthrust can sometimes be deceiving, what would be like a no-go sign, both in supply or price? Do you think that would be we're like, oh no, we should change course?
I mean, supply coming in on the downside anywhere up in here is not going to be good.
Right. So if we look a little bit,
you can't call like today's action an upthrust. It's just we might be testing the top of the trading range and we're ready to come back down. I mean, that's possible, especially if stocks decide to give it up. But I think we still got a chance here. And like you say, you called it an SOS, LPS, and we're in the middle of a jump or an upthrust, and I can't argue the way you labeled that. I got my resistance different than where you do, which helped me, buy the low last week and still helps you to buy the same thing on the LPS. But yeah, the volume signature there was low on that. I mean,
kept declining, yeah, and it was low on that.
We had the quick rally out of here straight to 25.2. So far everything looks still good. That we're still headed higher.
Awesome. And here, I guess, because we already had an increase for this, and to some degree, maybe this could be kind of its own little SOS and backup. I'm just going to draw this horribly for a second, excuse me, within its own kind of trading range, or a reaccumulation range, effectively.
Right. Definitely.
So this increase in supply right here on the downside isn't necessarily a worrying thing because of, well, first off, we had a huge chunk of supply to get us up there to begin with. The SOS and the backup, I guess, would be somewhat equivalent here. The backup and the SOS and the backup are trying to test each other, I guess.
Yep, I'd agree with that. And yeah, today we had that red bar off the highs today, but you're going to expect that because we're up here at this resistance like you have marked.
Yeah.
And also the resistance we went through from the highs just a few weeks ago. So definitely you're going to have some people try to make a stand here on the bearish side. You're going to have, we had a lot of shorts get massacred on the way up. I'd say most of them are probably out of the market.
Yes.
I think what'll happen here is we'll probably get a rush of new money to get long and jump resistance. And then we're going to punish the late longs with a little backup to shake them back out again before we start even more markup.
Right. Yeah. This next little bit is crucial because if we continue, then
right.
Okay. Here's another question. How do you deal with one of the things I was so excited about in March 2020 was the fact that it appeared that a long-term accumulation range had been taking place from around the $3,000 to 13,000 back down to $3,000. And I figured we were going to go up and outwards for there. How do you factor in the amount of time that it took? Because that was, I think, like 1,000 days or something in total. And here the primaries from primary support to LPS, we're only at 249 days. Do you factor in the time of the accumulation? Because I know Wyckoff's mentality was we'll use the point and figure charts, and depending on some of the compression we see here between time and supply, we expect that it will go this high over this amount of time. Just like, do you have does how long the trading range takes to form make any difference to your thought process?
I mean, normally it's, trading range will build up a cause and then you'll have the effect. So if you take, do some point and figure charts, you can get maybe an estimate on some type of upside objective before we'd have to have reaccumulation. I mean, again, it goes back to, we had a big trading range down there, 2018, 2018 through 2021, broke to the upside, and then came back down somewhat and tested. I don't know if that's a big jump or backup. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty hard.
So here's another thought. You can see my screen still, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this is I drew this up
looking
back
at the
in.
same thing on my chart here.
Oh, awesome. So I had some nice regression lines in here as well, which I think we're going to go back up to. But this is the question that I had. I always talk about this idea of scale and variance, that you can find trading ranges on so many different time frames. What's your thoughts on here? I'll point at it. What's your thoughts on, like, because this is the accumulation range I got excited about, from the selling climax to the automatic rally, the test, the spring, the test, the LPS, and then just a fucking massive breakout. Right. Is this a trading range to you as well? The entirety of the buying climax and then the first, I guess the first automatic reaction?
I'm going to tell you how, because I've got how I labeled it in front of me.
Oh yeah, here. Do you want to go back to screen share? You want to go back to screen share?
Let me talk about yours if you want.
Oh yeah, okay. Here we'll go.
Yeah, let me bring yours back up, because I'm going to tell you that I've got the first hard break there, early 2019, where you had the volume spike.
Here.
No, go over.
Sorry, into 2019.
Yes, you had the biggest blue bar to the downside.
Here.
Go over another 6 months.
This.
Yes, right February. There. I got that as a selling climax. And
this was the selling climax.
And then I've got a spring where you've got your selling climax.
Nice.
And I liked what you did too, but I'm just going to show you what I had.
Yes. Okay. Here, I'll jump back so we can see your screen too.
You want me to share mine then?
Yeah.
Let me do that.
It's fun. It's fun to compare notes with people that we're trying to look at the same thing, but we're getting slightly different variations. I'm a big fan of this right now, so thank you.
Okay, we're going to share the screen. Okay, you should see how I've labeled it.
Oh yeah. Okay. So off of the buying climax, the primary support and the automatic rally were for you at the very beginning of the range.
Yep.
Interesting.
Then we had, this negative bar there. I forget what that was, except just wiping everybody out. But I called that the spring, and then I called this a shakeout. We had huge volume on the shakeout, and couldn't even get to new lows.
Yes, well,
and
that was the
strength back to the resistance.
Right.
And then really not a really clear defined jump and back up. Not really.
Yeah, the breakout there was amazing, and we did hit the kind of final resistance out of 20,000. Nice. I like. See, the reason why I thought it was a spring was just because of the amount of fear that was in the market. That first drop down to the reason why I labeled it selling climax is because it just felt like supply. It didn't feel, whereas like I was physically scared in March 2020. Like I was worried about everything in life at that point. I thought I should buy a horse or some shit. So that part to me, I was like, oh, this is the spring. This is the moment of like unimaginable peak fear within the market cycle.
I can still remember sitting in front of my portable. I was at a friend's house and my hands were shaking. Trying to buy down there on the night that we broke down and made that low. I mean, yeah, it was gut wrenching.
Yes,
I was just, you called the spring the selling climax. The only reason I didn't like that is, we spent a lot of time down here. And it wasn't even a spring level like I liked, but I just, here's the bigger volume, these 3 bars in through here. So that's why I called that the selling climax. And then, that resistance there, then, worked out nice to stop that SOS.
Yeah.
And then the LPS here is at the same level as the preliminary support over here. And that's what I mentioned to you earlier. That is a common relationship. The preliminary support will be the same level as your last point of support. I don't know if
okay, yeah, nice.
That or, I mean, that worked out as well too. Pretty close.
And here's another thought. Because this is macro time frame. This is where things I think are the most exciting, because the bull market is probably going to last a while. What about reaccumulation channels and these kind of intermediary stepping stones in the upthrust cycles?
I mean, we didn't have much till we really went up through the highs here, etc. So.
Oh yeah. So actually, what about the macro time frame for where we are right now? Here, here. Can I share again for a sec?
You sure can.
Okay, this is kind of this will be a fun thought. So one of the things I had thought when we moved up into this new range the first time was that we were witnessing basically a giant reaccumulation range. That's what I thought we were going to see. I thought we were going to see a big reaccumulation range right across here. Do you think that we are basically at the very bottom of the spring potentially, and that we go up to the top of the trading ranges? This is where you're like, Elliott wave counts might take us.
I mean, Elliott wave counts, I think, they're still looking for new highs, 100,000 plus, etc.
New highs. Okay.
This could have been a wave 4 that ended down here at this 15.5, and that's my counts I'm using now. Is we're in the first 5 waves up off the lows. Somewhere here it ends, which I thought was still higher. Then we have an ABC pullback or some time frame sideways here, and then we're going to lift off again. So I still think, again, for me, if I get buy signals off my technometer, which is the volume, you want to jump on those, because sometimes you'll have corrections in volume and not really in price. So that'll end up happening. You'll get an ABC down in sell volume, and price might be actually ABC but tilted higher, which is hard to call ABCs, but that could end up happening.
Right. So I guess, oh, sorry, here we go. Now you can see the chart, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this maybe you can share your thoughts on this one afterwards, because I haven't drawn it up. But let's go back to this one. Give us a clear image. There we go. Yeah, so I thought that we might be in this giant accumulation range here effectively. And that the reason why we broke back below the trading range was very similar to what we saw in 2019 before we went up to 13,000, which I think here will be around 45 to 50. And then we formed some type of out of the back trading range within this larger cycle before boop, boop, going up further. That's kind of my sentiment. Excuse me for my Basquiat like trading view lines here.
I
A
think
little
we
bit
could
of
have 5 waves up into that trading range you're talking about. Then yeah, I get violent for a big wave 2. So
right. So
we're at a 1-2 now, but we've got to do 3, 4, 5 up to that 44,000 you're talking about.
right. So if we just even getting into this resistance area of 30,000, it could be huge. It could go 50, 60, could touch the top of the trading range potentially.
And have a big ABC pullback, a big trading range for reaccumulation.
Yeah, to draw out the rest of the time to the halving as well, effectively.
Right. Yep. I mean, yeah, I don't know if the Fed, I don't know. I mean, I've tried to stay bullish stocks in general. I mean, I think stocks could have still a run to the roses. I think US is the place to be. I think you can have a lot of outside capital that still runs for the stock market. And if that happens, Bitcoin's going to be the high beta lead us to the moon, I think.
Right. And it would make sense too that the distributional cycle in the S&P 500 wouldn't happen right away necessarily. Like we wouldn't just all of a sudden turn over and come straight down off the back end. The likelihood of bouncing up to say 4850 or something is probably quite high, because it would form a much larger trading range and distributional cycle instead of just that short little turnover that we got the first time.
I'd agree with that.
Maybe something, I think something like the 1970s where or Tesla actually did this too in its really early days. It made like a pretty violent or volatile state. I mean, it could be an accumulation cycle too. I mean, it could keep going up for all I know. If the Fed decides to print again, we're just going straight up basically.
Can I comment on a couple of your people talking here? Somebody just said, do you have any book recommendations?
Oh yes, please do. Yeah, let's do the chat for a minute.
Because I'd like to say, I mean, I would do any book written by Wyckoff. Some people have taken, become a student of Wyckoff and they go out and kind of write their own thing because they don't have the proprietary indicators. So they come up with, some type of volume indicator themselves. I mean, David Weiss did that. Rest in peace to him. And he did it well and did extremely well. But I think, first of all, I go with anything written by Wyckoff. I would do David Weiss's, W-E-I-S, David Weiss's book. I think would be a very good place to start. I got to say, take the original course. The course that I took, I paid, I think, $1,400 for it. I put it kind of all online. It's $9.99 now. There is a 560-page book that I send out. It's kind of a study along guide to try to stop people from stealing the course. So, but any book by Wyckoff, and maybe look at one of our courses.
Yeah, there's some fun reads out there. I think who wrote Anatomy of a Trading Range? That's a pretty short, like 4 or 5 page PDF as well. That one is quite nice. And they've got a lot of hand drawn pieces in it still too. Favorite books to learn Wyckoff. Yeah, that's probably a difficult one because a lot of it is more hands-on figuring than in a book necessarily.
Because some Wyckoff books will be people adding their own little twist to stuff, and I've not added anything to the Wyckoff course. I brought it all up to date, have it matching the software, but I do not add.
Tell us about that. Tell us about the story of Wyckoff SMI.
The story of Wyckoff SMI?
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned in 2017, what really happened is I was managing a lot of mutual fund money, and the indicators from Wyckoff was coming at 5 o'clock. Well, at 5 o'clock, I can't do any buying or selling. I got to wait till the next morning's opening. But if you're trading mutual funds in size, I got to wait a whole another 24 hours. So I asked Jim O'Brien at that time to do a software, and I said, could you make it run the numbers an hour before the close so I could manage my money better? And he did that. And then I had a really strange year where I wasn't making the money I was used to. And I told him, I said, I think when you changed it for a 3 o'clock, or for a 2 o'clock hour before the close update something happened. And he said, no, it didn't. Well, I ended up agreeing that something did happen. And kind of my whole business was based on Wyckoff. You know, if I'm not managing well, clients leave me. So I spent about $50,000 and went back and redid the software, not knowing the indicators equations, but I'd done it so many years, I thought I knew them. So and I'm no mathematician, but I kind of built up from backwards and built better software, but it updated every 5 minutes. And I showed him what I built, and he's like, damn, you spent some money and maybe build a better mousetrap. So at that point, he said, hey, because I wanted to join him and have him still doing the teaching, because I don't really consider myself a teacher. I'm a money manager. So I wanted him to keep doing the teaching, and I wanted to give real-time trades. I wanted to show that it works, because I had proven that it worked in my real-time competitions. Then when he backed out, I kind of had to take over somewhat the teaching aspect. Even though most of us online, you know, tests mostly are graded by themselves. The finals I grade, but you know, I kind of built a better mousetrap on the software because it does update every 5 minutes. I thought I had an edge on crypto because the crypto software was bringing in consolidated exchange volume from 140 exchanges. I've had an issue with that recently, but now it seems like all the volumes, Binance and then Coinbase, a lot of these other exchanges aren't having any volume. But my API provider is going to go out, you know, and try to expand their offering. So I'm looking forward to, you know, what the future could hold here with volume coming from these other exchanges, etc.
Yeah, there's actually I wanted to share this with you. You can see my screen where it says Wyckoff.
Oh yeah, I've seen quite a few over the years. I kind of take some clips of them and show them. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that was one of our community members made. You know, that it's interesting to find, because for me, a lot of the stuff I had used as trading for indicators and pattern recognition, like falling wedges or something like this, a lot of it didn't make any sense until I put it within the trading range. Then it made a ton of sense. Actually, this is probably one or two. I could ask one or two more fun last questions here. I'll do the screen. Can you see my screen? Is that
yes?
True?
Kimosabi makes a comment, because that's a friend of mine, that, you know, a lot of people show Wyckoff schematics with no volume, which is crazy, because Wyckoff is known for bringing in volume analysis. So having these schematics with no volume is like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because you're missing a huge portion of the story. Yes. Well, this is a Gala here, and one of the do I have okay, want to ask a thought here. Do you ever follow, like let's say this is a falling wedge throughout the trading range itself? Are you using patterns within the trading range?
I'm using Elliott Wave for that. I mean, that's definitely an ending diagonal. I've done Elliott Wave. I mean, interesting story. I mean, Robert Prechter is the only person I would follow for Elliott Wave. And, you know, back in the day, he was the man. But I used to talk to him for $50 a minute in 1984, 85, 86. My boss's credit card was just on file with him. And I'd call him and be like, I wouldn't ask him how the weather was. I came right in with all the meat, like, this is $50 a minute. What do you think about this and that? So I'm pretty well. I mean, Elliott Wave was going to make me one of their first, like, outside teachers. I was going to launch a whole other website called the tradingclub.vip, which I've got built. It's setting here. It's more, you can get paid for referrals. I post to it all the time. If you went to that site and logged in, I mean, it looks like it's going. I just never did launch it because I was going to offer Elliott Wave, Wyckoff. I was going to bring in other experts and just make it for a place for everyone to congregate. So I know my Elliott Wave. And yeah, those are ending diagonals. I mean,
yeah, I've just noticed that some of the things I was most excited about finding, like, a cup and handle or a falling wedge or inverse head and shoulders, when I found them and they were valuable, they were found within the trading range itself. and that often people were focusing on some head and shoulders position within an accumulation range, thinking that this head and shoulders would break bearish, but it's in a much larger accumulation range that just broke out of a falling wedge or something like this. And I found that the pattern within the trading range became one of the most helpful additives as well. Because if you look for a head and shoulders on on a smaller time frame, you're not going to find anything as valuable as if you find like a falling wedge or a head and shoulders throughout the trading range over the daily on a $300 to $600 or $300 to $600 accumulation range, effectively.
Definitely.
Well, Todd, it's been a ton of fun today. I'm glad we got to chat, and I learned a thing or two as well. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Everyone, if you've enjoyed the conversation, remember to give us a thumbs up. All of Todd and Wyckoff SMI's links are down in the description below, so be sure to follow them on Twitter and YouTube. I appreciated the video you did the other day. I was excited to see we were thinking the same thing. It's always like someone else is agreeing. It's not just I'm not hallucinating. It's always a good feeling.
That's cool.
Todd, thank you for joining us today. I'll keep you on just for a few minutes afterwards. Arcane Bear family, thank you all for joining us on such a late emergency podcast. This is the time that Todd had available, so we said let's just go ahead and do it. So I appreciate you for diving in and having an evening chat with us. We'll see you guys again on the next episode. And so just like this, I'm gonna stop this somehow. Oh wait, hold on. Maybe you have to stop the live. Is it up the top there? You can stop the live?
I can end the whole conversation, I believe. That's all I can do.
I'll just end the stream. Hold on. There we go. That should do it. Why don't I? Oh, yeah.